everyone. My name is Michael Thurgood, photojournalist and sociologist right here at VEDA World News. VEDACOM.com with two M's. That is VEDACOMM.com. And I'm here today with, introduce yourself, ma'am.
Houston City Councilmember Tiffany D. Thomas. I represent District F on the west side, the best side of Houston.
Listen, I didn't know she was like that. Thank you for being down to earth here. And remember, at VEDA Communications, VEDA World News, there is no censorship. So no one's going to tell you what you can and can't say here.
Thank you.
Okay, but the topic of the day, and we have a short bit of time here, is that we're talking about redistricting.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what's going on now?
I mean, this is a blatant example of racism.
Okay.
And for everyone who is watching and paying attention, if you're not paying attention, including, this is the moment to do so. And not just pay attention, but actually get involved. Redistricting, many of us are familiar with this. Every 10 years after the U.S. Census, it is normal for legislatures to review the new population numbers, right? That's when we're able to see where the growth has happened, so we can make sure we have fair representation. Unfortunately, what has happened is that Donald Trump knows that his time in D.C., this short time, has been destructive to the American people.
Okay.
And so he's instructed Governor Greg Abbott to give him 5 new seats in Texas. Which is directly impacting the people of Houston, also in Dallas, but also the district that I represent. It is literally just tearing up the fabric of neighborhoods and breaking up our political power.
Now here's a quick question. You stated that it is a racist policy. What makes it racist for the everyday
Sure.
people?
I mean, well, you know, we're familiar with the word gerrymandering, and when you look at the districts and what they did, the Texas legislature, what they did in the 2023 legislative, they've already split up certain districts. The historic Texas 18 district, the district of Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, Craig Washington, Sheila Jackson Lee, Sylvester Turner, Erica Lee Carter. They cut that district up where the 18th was going all the way to the north side of Houston, took out Sunnyside and certain historic black population neighborhoods that all had similar interests. So they've done this over the decade, over time. The Texas Congressional 18th of Barbara Jordan and Mickey Leland is not the 18th today. And what the proposed maps offer is basically they're getting rid of Texas 9, which is Al Green, and then they're merging 2 black districts into one. When you look at on where I live on the west side, they've literally given us 4 congressional members in 1 zip code. So when we talk about political power and the ability to have our interests represented, we have to then advocate and lobby for different congressional members who don't have a connection to that neighborhood or the people or the issues, and then expect them to take care of represent our causes, and that's not what's happening.
Well, let me ask you, being on the blue ticket, and you are on the blue ticket, yes or no?
Yes, I'm a Democrat.
Because I always have to ask, I never like to assume.
Sure.
What solutions and strategies do you guys have to counteract or counterbalance this particular gerrymandering?
Sure. So, you know, I'm not a state representative, and so that's not before me as a council member. However, as someone who votes Democratic and who's an elected official and just someone who votes and participates in the process, I am proud to see my Democratic leadership and those who represent me doing what they can do by breaking the quorum in Austin and by working with Democratic governors in other states, because we have to start playing fire with fire. For far too long, we have operated on the moral high ground, right? We're doing things better. We're taking care of people. Like, look at us. This is this kind of, righteousness in terms of our service. What we have to combat this level of fire with is another set of fire, and we have to do it strategically. And I think the Democratic state representatives that have broken quorum are demonstrating the leadership that the base wants to see. For periods of time, Black women have carried the Democratic Party. We've carried issues. We've been the canary sounding the alarm. And it's about time we have Democratic leaders sound the alarm on our behalf, because Black women are tired.
Okay, well, let me ask you, on the local level, redistricting, how does it affect the average Houstonian?
Sure. So we actually participated in redistricting in 2021 and 22 after the 2020 census. So we cut some of the lines in our local council districts. So I know we're talking at a federal level, what's in the national conversation and the state conversation with Texas, but redistricting impacts everything. It impacts who your local representative is. It impacts if your neighborhood has cohesive representation. It makes a lot of difference in terms of who your representation is. You can be on one side of the street and have a council member or state rep or congressional member represent you, and they don't represent your ideals.
Okay.
And we want to make sure, particularly in our neighborhoods, that we retain political power. So that's how we are stronger. That's how we're able to get results. That's how we're able to communicate our priorities to our people. And so, and just broadly to the city of Houston. Houston locally has 11 council districts.
Okay.
We have 5 at-large members. And that's basically drawn by redistricting maps that the city has to go through. And I will tell you, when we went through that practice, it was proposed that I lose a population. They attempted to take population away from me, which is illegal.
Okay.
And I had to fight to make sure that those neighborhoods retained an F, and that our neighborhoods were made whole. And so we can stop splitting up our neighborhoods and weakening our political voice.
Let's ask a quick question here. Homelessness in Houston.
Yeah.
Now, there was a proposed legislation that actually took effect, in which the homeless population of downtown, starting downtown, could not, I guess, congregate
the
from
stability
7
ordinance
to 11 p.m.
Yes.
Where are these homeless people going to go?
A good question. And I know this is probably in the local news and people were asking questions, and we actually sent out a survey to the residents in District F just to get a pulse check, because civility ordinances is something that a neighborhood can initiate on their own. Most people don't know that, where they can restrict sleeping in public sidewalks at intersections particular times. We've noticed a lot of this in 3rd Ward, East End, and so what the administration and the council member of that area were advocating for is for 2 particular neighborhoods where they had no sleeping on sidewalks 24/7 in the East End downtown.
Well, let's go to the root of the issue. The root that we are seeing here is that underemployment, joblessness, and of course mental health. I actually conducted a couple interviews with homeless people on the train. One guy, fully coherent, comes from Mississippi to come here, and he says, hey, a lot of the homeless population simply does not have the mental capacity to be functional members of society because of their mental health struggles. What is Houston going to do about that?
Sure, and let me add a disaster. And a lot of times when we talk about the unhoused population, we are talking about the most chronic, right?
Yes.
Those who need mental beds. But there is a demographic in the city of Houston that are unhoused, that present and show up to work every day. Okay. And most people don't know that. They don't know that.
Because they're busy.
Yeah, they're busy. They have kids. They may be sleeping on someone's couch.
True.
They may, and so they are unhoused. And that is a population that is larger than the chronically homeless that's visible on our street.
Understood.
And so I think from a comprehensive perspective, what Houston has done and where we have generated notoriety and impact is on adopting the Housing First model.
Okay.
Housing First model came out in 2011 in the President Obama administration.
Okay.
The mayor at the time, Mayor Nice Parker, adopted that locally to address our veterans who are on the street. We were able to initiate a program with that. Mayor Turner came on for 8 years, expanded that model where we have a coordinated care system where we place individual in housing with the idea, if we can get you stabilized in housing, I can get you a case manager. I can get you a case manager. I can get you some services. I can get you stable on meds. I can get you, job training. And we've yielded success with that. The disaster piece is really critical because imagine Hurricane Harvey in 2017.
And I know that was something that you really wanted to touch on today. What's a disaster?
Sure, but the impacts of that with homelessness, a lot of times when you talk about disaster, we talk flooding, we talk housing, we talk all of these things.
Okay.
But there are a lot of folks who are 2 checks away from a disaster, and that's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. All it is a medical issue.
One study stated that Houston residents, 47% are one paycheck away from being actually evicted and homeless.
Absolutely. So if they don't have $1,000 in savings, they're 2 checks away from being evicted. Here comes Hurricane Harvey, the most costliest storm in the nation's history, where we lost units, multifamily units, because they flooded out. So that's housing inventory off the line. there were jobs that were lost. People lost money because they couldn't get to their job. There were businesses that flooded out and said, we can't come back.
Correct.
And so now they're on the street. So when you mentioned the brother from Mississippi, I wonder, did he come here because he was looking for employment, once had employment, right? But those are the stories of like, I came here, the storm threw me off, I was already on the edge, I just got this hourly job. Harvey shut the city down. And so then when you are already, vulnerable, it really destabilizes you. So I think a lot of times we don't really look at how the 11 to 12 federally declared disasters we've had in this city over 10 years has contributed to our unhoused population.
Well, what processes are you guys putting in place for the next inevitable disaster?
Sure. So interesting that you say that. Wednesday, which is tomorrow, and for those who are watching, I want you to pay attention, watch HTV. You can watch City Council live on Facebook Live or HTV. Local government is accessible to you. We have a proposal to adopt a $314 million package to address the impacts of Hurricane Beryl and derecho. Derecho came in, blew through the city. We were out of power.
Yes.
Beryl had us on our knees in the middle of a heat wave.
It did?
It did. Many people were out of power up to 11 days. And so what we realized in Hurricane Beryl is that we had gaps in our resiliency response. So Wednesday, the vote hopefully has a unanimous support around it, allows us to do a couple of things. One, investing our housing inventory.
Okay.
The administration initially offered $0 for housing.
Really?
$0. And
wow.
When FEMA came in, they did the unmet need was $299 million worth of damage. And the administration says we're not putting any money in housing. And in Houston, that's what we do. We invest in housing. So after pushback from myself as chair of the housing committee and the community stakeholders who said absolutely not. We need home repair dollars. We need to be made whole. The administration came back with 50. I didn't think that it met the demand and wasn't fair for the people of Houston, particularly when you look at the data by district. We look at districts B, districts D, H. The demand of emergency assistance during the 2024 storm series, derecho and Beryl. District B by itself had $76 million of emergency assistance from FEMA issued for housing assistance.
Is this a plus or a minus?
That is a negative.
I have to ask.
That just tells you the amount of investment that the city has to consistently make. If 76,000 Houstonians in District B, those are just the ones who called and qualified. That's because everybody doesn't call FEMA.
Right. I know we didn't call mine. I'm guilty.
Right. So, and those are your tax dollars that are supposed to return to you for that reason. So imagine the people who called and were denied, or who didn't call at all, said we'll figure it out.
Yeah. That's
so you have 76,000 just on the north side. That was a lot of money. So in terms of $50 million. One district can take $50 million by itself in terms of stabilizing. So I offered an amendment, $50 million to match that to get us to $100 million for housing repair and for multifamily.
Okay.
So we would be able to do housing. We would be able to invest in preparation in terms of resiliency, installing generators in our multifamily in our multi-service center, our community centers all throughout the city, and libraries, so people can have access to charge their phone, charge their oxygen machine.
It was needed. It was needed.
And we need to be hyper-local, and what this total plan allows us to do is be hyper-local until FEMA comes in. Hyper-local until HUD comes in.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What are your predictions for the city in the next, let's say, 2 years?
Oh, goodness.
I have to ask, because I love to hear the predictions and the forecast.
Predictions. God.
What do you see coming down the pipe? Anything in development?
Well, if anything cashes out, I want to check for it. I want some credibility for it if something makes. I think that in the next 2 years, I do think we'll have a storm of a record proportion. I mean, we just look at, how we're tracking. I think we'll be tested in that manner in 2 years. So? I do. I mean, when you just look at, when I first was elected, the first 3 months, everything was great. And then March of 2020,
everything that could go wrong
went wrong. And we were told, meet us in the legacy room. We have a press conference with the mayor and the county judge, and the CEO of the rodeo had no clue of what was going on. So when Houstonians heard that we were shutting down the rodeo, that's when I heard it too.
Oh, wow.
at the press conference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this here. In terms of Houston, transportation is a must-have.
Yeah.
What is the city doing to expand the train line?
Yeah.
Now, when I talk to people about the train and those who ride it, they say, hey, listen, it's only concentrated in just a few areas.
Sure.
I live X, Y, Z all the way
Sure.
out. Can we get some expansion here?
Sure. Yeah, I don't think we're doing enough. As a matter of
Okay.
fact, when I ran for city council, there was a referendum on the ballot called Metro Next.
Okay.
And Metro Next was on the ballot in 2019 to do that very thing, to connect the west side to the downtown core, to connect the north side all the way to our
Yes.
universities, corridors, and centers. And we were moving forward with that. As a matter of fact, I will tell you, Metro Next had more votes than the mayoral election.
Wow. So that means that this train is desperately wanted and needed
Absolutely.
by
It's total a comprehensive public transit, I would offer.
How fast? When you guys gonna get started?
Well, actually, that's why elections matter. And
Okay.
I think when people talk about elections, a lot of times they just think of elected officials and those of us on the ballot, but they don't realize the ability we have to appoint and nominate people to do and to sit on very important boards to carry our city's vision. Metro is one of those boards. Under the former Mayor Sylvester Turner, he was fully supportive of Metro
Okay.
Next. And had appointed board members that carried that same vision. Mayor Whitmire's vision is explicitly different from that in terms
In what term?
in terms of Metro Next project has not moved forward. They are focusing more on the first mile, last mile, micro transit. When the data and the information, and I remember being briefed on the project, I was completely overwhelmed with excitement about what it was going to do for the West Corridor of Houston, to bring folks all the way from Highway 6 to Highway 99 all the way into
It's neat
town.
because when I look at it, and I am an avid train rider because I'm doing press, so I've got to be places. Katie.
Yeah.
Katie needs a ride.
Yeah.
They have a park and ride, but there's no train
Sure.
ride.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? And I think Metro does a great job at what it does.
Yeah.
But again, there's always room for improvement.
Sure.
So if there's always room for improvement, what improvements do you think need to be made?
Well, I think we already have a blueprint and a vision for what the improvement is, and it is Metro Next. I grew up on Metro.
Okay.
My first job, I remember asking my mom and dad, well, who's gonna drop me off at the mall? And they said, what? Drop you off? Here's these bus passes.
Yeah.
And we had one car as a family. My father did park and ride, so worked in the Galleria area. So we weren't strangers to public transit. Everyone in my family used the Metro bus. I couldn't get out of A-Leaf if it wasn't for the Metro bus to go to work.
Okay.
And so I remember taking the 132 Harwin, getting to Gessner, dropping me off at Memorial City Mall. And I learned the city that way.
I did. That's how I
learned the
I'm
city.
not a native Houstonian, by the way. I'm come all the way from Chicago.
Yeah.
So I'm here.
And y'all are so familiar with public transit.
That's all we do.
That's all you
it's
do.
like $80 to park your car. You know what I mean?
Right. And so in Houston, so for me, my support of Metro and what they're able to do is personal.
Okay.
Because I have friends who went to school, they would have never been able to finish at U of H if they didn't have the Metro line.
This is true.
And so that's a pathway to education. It's a pathway to a job. It's economic mobility and stability. And so I believe that Metro has a vision and a blueprint for it. And the public has been calling Metro higher to meet that. Meet the people's vote. The people voted for this.
Yes.
And I think that that's what's going to be transformational, because you can't talk about like investing in the city and not invest in your transit, not invest in your housing.
Yes, that's commerce
It's
all day.
all day long.
Shifting gears, that high-speed rail that has been in the news since I've been here, and I've only been here about 6 years. What's happening with that? Is that ever going to move forward? I look at high-speed
Houston,
rails.
Dallas?
Yeah, because I look at high-speed rails like in China.
Sure.
I'm geopolitics, by the way.
Sure.
You may not know. And it is a beautiful train. It is fast. How can we get something like that here?
I don't know. I'm really interested in the future of that. I think at one point it was stalled for a long time.
Yes.
And we got to just, keep it really real. I think there's a certain part of the transportation lobby that may not want us to have this speed rail, because then if you can get on the train for what are they saying, 45-minute ride to Houston to Dallas, would you get on the flight? No.
I mean, the flight.
And so but the airline, the air line lobby may not be in support of this.
I mean, with all the planes crashing and falling out of the
You
sky,
may- I
think
know.
all of that sky,
know.
you're gonna like crash.
I know,
Like, come
but
on.
then maybe my $99 ticket to Dallas is no longer competitive because the amount of time it takes me to get in the airport, park, go through TSA, all of that.
Who wants to do that?
Exactly, if
In
you have a rail.
2025, 2026, who wants to step out of their shoes at
Right.
the airport when you can take a train?
I know,
Right?
and I think that's probably why this is not happening.
Well, we have to do something about
Yeah.
that. Again, I can't take sides. I'm a
Sure.
journalist. But I hope you guys are able to do something about
Yeah,
that.
I think the public would love to have access to that. I mean, imagine, being able to live in Houston, work in Dallas, and get home.
Oh, that would be great.
You're already in a car for an hour, so
Might as
right, well, get on a
And
train.
and at least you can still be productive
And you
on
can
your
be
laptop.
productive and reduce, car emissions and all these types
All
of
the
things.
green energy.
all of that.
And all, yes.
Be less stressful.
Final question, because I know you got to get out of here. How can we bring jobs to Houston that are worth working for and who
Sure.
are going to pay a decent livable wage of roughly, on average, $17 an hour?
Sure, really good question. So I think Houston is open for business. I think one, if you have a business, you're an entrepreneur, even a major big box corporation, consider Houston as a headquarters or a major distribution site for your workforce economy. But with that, I think there's a couple of things that we have to continue to address. Adult education is one. The average resident in Harris County is on an 8th grade reading level. So when we talk about high skill, high wage jobs, we need to make sure that when we are opening the city for that they have
They
a competitive workforce. We've done a phenomenal job with our young people, K through 12. Our schools have transformed to get these kids career ready and college ready and military ready. But what about the uncle and the aunt and the mom and the dad that are
Correct.
working low wage jobs? So I think if while they're in school having access to that type of training, the parents also need adult education.
And is the entertainment industry going to come to Houston? Been a lot of talk about it. We need
Lots
to
of
hear
interest there, yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah, in the state legislature in 2023, they increased the incentive, the tax incentive,
Okay.
which has always been an issue.
How much was it?
I don't recall the
I
percentage
think it was
increase.
like 5% or something like
Yeah,
that.
but I knew that there was some type of increase, and I think what the legislature realizes is that there's a lot of revenue that can come from this,
Have you ever watched
lot
a
of
Marvel
revenue.
film and looked at the film credits for that?
and they're nowhere here.
Not that it's not only here, but the amount of people
for
it
sure.
takes to produce that.
Yeah.
And that's long-term
Oh,
work.
for sure.
A year or more
Oh,
of
for
work.
sure.
You know what I mean? And that is something that Houston can definitely have.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are crying out for that. I know Chantrell Reed of Creed Global Media, that is something that she's spearheading. She's
Yeah.
really, coming to the forefront for that. But we're going to wrap up here, and because I would love to have you back, and I know you got things you got to do. How can people get in contact with you? Instagram,
Sure.
social media, whatever you have.
Sure, you can always follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or what we call it, an X now,
Yes,
or
X.
whatever. Blue Sky, I'm there too. But you can always follow me at the District F webpage. Look us up at Tiffany D. Thomas, Houston City Council member. Follow what we're doing. Sign up for our newsletter. There's lots of opportunities to get involved with the community. You don't have to live on the west side, the best side, to be in relationship with us. But there's things that we're doing around public safety. There's things we're doing around economic development, neighborhood revitalization, quality of life, and youth engagement. So if you have a passion or a vision for that, I would love to be a partner with you as we continue to serve the people of Houston.
It's an absolute pleasure to have this time to talk to you in front of this camera here at VEDA World News. And as always, my name is Michael Thurville, photojournalist and sociologist here at VEDA World News. That is VEDACOM.com with 2 M's, VEDACOMM.com. Thank you.
Thank you.